everyone, I'm Karen Das.
And I'm Vinay Harrichan from the Cutlass magazine.
So this is Isari.
Right, they're doing it like this, right? I'm asking so.
Great to see you again, Vinay. So we had some lovely interaction this past week with our Trinidad Bhojpuri feature, and we kicked off the week with nice little rhythm and beat. So we started with the word DHANTAAL, DHANTAAL, a simple percussion instrument. Many of you might be familiar with this one. Well, many were familiar with this one. Maybe you can play the DHANTAAL. And I just want to acknowledge Sudhir in Fiji. Sudhir says, well, they say DAAL, dand from danda, and tal. Nalini as well made mention of Baitha Gana, and yes, Baitha Gana, spread pal singing, all of that would be sadly lacking if we did not have this simple instrument, the DHANTAAL.
Yeah, so the DHANTAAL is the instrument that you can basically define as the long iron rod that people beat and play when they're singing local classical music, Baitha Gana, chutney music, and it makes up one of the trifecta of instruments that you'll see in chutney music, one being the dolak, one being the harmonium, harmonia, or organ, and the third being the DHANTAAL. And the DHANTAAL, being a long iron rod, it kind of gives that a certain kind of puncture to the music and allows people to dance to it. And one curious thing about the word DHANTAAL, as you mentioned, Sudhir saying that they use the word DHANTAAL. I noticed sometimes in Bhojpuri you might find an omission of that letter D. So for example, in standard Hindi, you might have a name like Ram Chand, right? Or Roop Chand. Roop Chand means beauty of the sun or beauty of the moon, sorry.
Yeah.
But then in Bhojpuri, that name would be Roop Chand. So notice the D gets dropped there. Similarly, the word Chandan, we all know Chandan is sandalwood. And then in some Bhojpuri dialects, people say Chanan. So notice the D gets dropped there. So similarly, you have DHANTAAL, and then for our dialect, you have DHANTAAL. So you see the dropping of the D there, but the meaning doesn't necessarily change. Everybody knows that tal is still the Hindustani word for rhythm or beat.
Right. And Nana Singh captured the image of indentured laborers going to the fields, and on the cart would be 4 crowbars to hold the bundles together, and those on the cart would just hit or beat on this for rhythm while singing, and it's it's similar to if you were to knock a table or knock a ting. So sort of to get that rhythm going, and I suppose maybe that is how this instrument was birthed.
And there's a long-standing argument about, was the DHANTAAL created in Trinidad?
Yeah.
Now, my personal take on that is that the fact that the DHANTAAL exists in very similar forms in Fiji, Guyana, Trinidad, Suriname, all of these indenture sites that for many, many years would not have only been geographically separated, but there wouldn't have been a lot of communication with the people between all of these places. And so the fact that you have this instrument that is in all of these different indenture sites at least tells me that it has a common ancestor in India, since all of us kind of came from similar areas in India. And so therefore, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily created in Trinidad. It seems to have a common origin somewhere in South Asia.
Right, yes, and it's very difficult to come across any kind of confirmation in research as saying that it was indeed invented here in Trinidad. So yes, it's still up for debate, but if you were really to just follow Vinay's thinking, it makes perfect sense. So that's DHANTAAL, our first word for Trinidad Bhojpuri week last week. We followed up with DUKAAN. And so many people messaged it Dukaan. So, is it a place or is it an act? Is it something that we do? Because I saw that some people actually put shopping, some people put two shop, some people put a shop. Dukaan.
Yes, so dukan is a proper noun and it's the Hindustani word for shop or store. I noticed some people might have thought it was market. However, a market, the word for that is bazaar, like grand bazaar, or
Mm-hmm.
bajar being the Hindustani equivalent. So dukan is very specifically a store or a shop. And some people might know the word dukandar, which is a shopkeeper, somebody who runs a store. So yeah, dukan is a proper noun. It's not a verb for shopping or anything like that.
And there's a song. So Ramesh Prasad Singh challenged us with a line and asked if we're familiar with this Ghana.
Yes, and so that line goes something along the lines of Madura ke dukan mein dono jaake bete hain. मथुरा के दुकान में दोनों जाके बैठे हैं. And that's from the ubiquitous Sundar Popo song Nana Nani. And that lyric translates to, Nana Nani. They go to the Madeira Ke Dukan. Madeira was a brand of rum. So they go to the rum shop and they're sitting down, they're having a drink, having a chat. And the thing I find really interesting about that comment is that Ramesh is actually Indo-Jamaican. So the fact this goes to show you that these words are not just, limited to Trinidad. It's applicable to all of our, communities in Jamaica, Suriname, Trinidad, Guyana.
Right. So just don't fall in a well if you're on your way to a Dukan. Right. So not necessarily a Madeira Dukan. But that was a fun word for so many people and brought back memories because, there were messages from some of those who were following up with the feature saying that they remember their parents saying that. Earl also lives in Jamaica. And he said he remembered his mother would tell them, go to the Dukan to get so and so and so. So
a loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter.
So that's our Trinidad Bhojpuri with Dukaan, a shop or a store. And we follow up, as usual, on a Wednesday with a Trinidad Bhojpuri phrase. This was a really funny one. Dal mein kuch kala ba. Or dal mein kuch kala hai. So we used the ba. We've used ba before in Trinidad Bhojpuri phrases. So Vinay, this was your phrase.
Yeah, so dal mein kuch kala hai is the standard Hindi form, and then dal mein kuch kala ba is the Trinidad Bhojpuri form. So hai or hai is the Hindi word for is or are, and then ba is the Trinidad Bhojpuri equivalent. So dal mein kuch kala ba means there is something black in the dal. And a lot of people were able to guess the very literal meaning. However, it's more of a figurative meaning. If there's something black in the dal, I noticed some people are answering Jira, they were answering the question. But the actual metaphorical meaning is that there's something black in the dal, there's something that sticks out, like something is wrong, something's amiss. And people might know it from that popular Kanchan song, Bolo Bolo, where she says, Dal mein kuch kala hai, kya chutney masala hai. So she's saying like something is wrong, something does not feel right. It's kind of similar to a phrase we had done before, kuch gadbad hai, something is wrong.
Right. So now you can use that. Dal mein kuch kala ba. So if you're having a conversation with somebody and you don't want to say it out loud, but you find a situation a little suspicious, or something's just not right, and you don't want to say it out loud, you can just whisper to somebody, Dal mein kuch kala ba. Now you know what it means. I am so going to use that now. All right, so Trinidad Bhojpuri word "kaanpay," kaanpay, and it happens. It can happen when you're feeling cold. It can happen when you're nervous. It can happen when you're overwhelmed with grief and sadness and anxiety. It can happen when you have a fever. So kaanpay, Trinidad Bhojpuri word.
Yes, so kape is a Trinidad Bhojpuri verb, and it means to shake, to tremble, to shiver. And as you mentioned, it can be due to fear, anxiety, being cold, being nervous, but it all has that same meaning: to shake, tremble, quiver. And a popular song that you might have heard it from without realizing it is Rasika Dindial's cover of that song Kaapela Dotia, Kaapela Lotia, which means that the dhoti is trembling and the lota is trembling. Now, contextually, that's actually a Kanyadan song. So in a Hindu wedding, the Kanyadan is essentially when the father is giving away the dulahin, he's giving away his daughter. So that song is talking about how he's so scared to let his beti go, he's so scared to let his daughter go live in somebody else's house, that while he's performing the Kanyadan ceremony, his dhoti is trembling, Kaapela Dotia, and the lota in his hand is trembling.
So it gives deeper meaning to the song, so now you can appreciate the song even more. And we wrap up the week with a food-related word. Well, this is cooking-related, and for more emphasis, it's chulha-related. CHAILAA. Well, actually, it's CHAILAA, which is aspirated as a separate word, but CHAILAA was our Trinidad Bhojpuri word. Some people had some difficulty with this one, but others managed to get through this quite easily.
So if you listen to a lot of our local folk songs, you might hear someone saying to put the lakri in the chulha, or put the lakri in the chulha. And lakri is a long piece of firewood. It's a stick, what you set on fire to stick in the chulha and be able to cook. However, the chaila is those wooden bits when you break up that wood, when you set it on fire, these smaller bits of wood. And you might hear it in songs. Actually, there's a popular, or used to be a popular song by a local Trinidadian singer that goes something like "Chuck the chaila in the chulaha and blow the pukani."
Chuck the chaila in the chulha and blow the pukani. Chuck the chaila in the chulha and blow the pukani. Chuck the chaila in the chulha and blow the pukani.
So you chuck the chaila, that means you're adjusting the firewood bits. So just to know, a lakri is a long stick of wood, and the chaila are the wooden bits that you have in the chulha.
Right, yeah. So the smaller pieces, or as you said, the chips, right, and it's burning, and those would be used for burning. Well, there you have it. So Trinidad Bhojpuri words and a phrase. Well done, everybody. And it's always an opportunity to learn. There's so many messages and say, wow, this was a hard one. I'm learning every day another word. And then some of these words trigger such nice memories for you growing up, hearing the words being used by your parents or your grandparents or your aunties and so on. And many words we've lost, but we're trying to hold on to whatever we have left. So you contributing, you certainly add to the feature Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. So we hope you're able to keep up with this week's words. And Vinay of the Cutlass magazine, thank you once again. How can folks get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me at Cutlass Magazine on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and feel free to send me a message, cutlasspodcast@gmail.com.
Great. And you can follow up with these on YouTube as well. Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. So until next week, bye.
Mm-hmm.